Hello, Maya TV. Welcome back. We have another great interview for you. Here I am with Daniel De Leon. He's an incredible visual effects artist, prolific in a lot of movies. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, tell us about how you got involved in the visual effects industry.
Well, I guess since childhood, I've always loved drawing, and it's always been a professional passion of mine, I guess, since I was a kid. Drawing led to software and learning Photoshop, eventually learning ZBrush, and during college, I wound up kind of splitting my interests and double majoring in fine art and visual effect or visual communication and medicine. So I wound up majoring in biology and pre-med, and then just having fun with the arts, and then eventually working 2 years in an ER helped me determine that medicine wasn't quite what I wanted to do. So I wound up kind of leaning more into the arts as an escape from the hard sciences, and also kind of a de-stressing sort of therapeutic type of exercise. And that also wound up leading to snowballing into working for a theater in Pennsylvania, doing stage set prop design, and the same software that we use to digitally sculpt a lot of those sets and props wound up being, of course, the same software we use for films and a lot of different characters and objects we do in common implementation for films today. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
Then you started in Philadelphia. Yeah.
Just outside.
Yeah. And then you came here to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like coming here and entering the industry?
Well, it was I don't know, I guess it was a bit of an adventure. My time in Pennsylvania ended a little bit abruptly with a position I had, unfortunately. But it was kind of like God throwing me into the deep end. So I had to sink or swim, and I had been traveling out to LA a lot for different types of trade shows and conventions, and sharing my work with those people in different environments there. And wound up connecting with a good friend of mine who became a good friend of mine, and Solomon Blair. And at the time, he was working for Pixelogic, which is the company that makes ZBrush, the sculpting software that I often use. And he saw me at all these trade shows and was like, where do you live in LA? I see you at all these different shows. And I said, I don't live in LA, I live in Pennsylvania. And he was like, I see you here at more shows than people who live in LA. Like, why aren't you here? And I said, I have a good job at the moment, and I just don't want to drop that for an unsure thing. But that led then, of course, to the job ending just before Thanksgiving. And so I called him up, and he was like, hey, move in with me, don't even worry about rent, I've got an extra room, just come over, get your feet underneath you, and we'll work it out from there. And so that was like an incredible, generous offer. And so I moved over to LA with 6 suitcases and my corgi and a laptop, and things started to snowball from there. So the move to LA was a little bit abrupt, but I had warmed up with trade shows a lot and networking out here, and I was excited. I moved into Redondo Beach, and I've still been there all this time since. I love the South Bay. I think it's a beautiful area, and it's just outside of central LA, so you don't really have the feeling of Los Angeles. It's more just like a really nice beach town.
Now, you've worked on a lot of big films. Tell us about work you've done.
Some of the big ones would be Fantastic Beasts, the third one, Black Adam. Got to work on all the main hero assets on The Rock, Pierce Brosnan, Kuntis Swilden, Al Hodge, and then of course I think one of the best ones I got to work on was Spider-Man No Way Home, which was a huge honor. Got to work a lot on Tom Holland from the neck down, because all that suit was all CG overlaid, and I got to work on Sandman a bit as well, and a lot of different hero shots for that film. So it was a real pleasure and an honor to work on it, because I had always loved the Spider-Man films in general, and not knowing at the time just how good it would be, but after watching it, I was sitting in the theater with Solomon, and we were both smiling but in tears because of just how great the story was, and just our journey had led to that moment was pretty satisfying. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of different shows in between too that I got to work on, and Westworld was another big highlight that I got to work on for a bit as a huge Michael Crichton fan, and also a fan of the Nolans, knowing that Jonathan Nolan was one of the co-creators for the remake of that series, or that movie that was is now a series. I loved the first season, so I got to work in the second season when they go to Shogun World and there's a lot of fighting with katanas, and they knew my background in anatomy, so that's I think what helped a lot with certain shows as well, was they knew you knew muscles and bones, and they're like, you're working on some dismemberments. And then of course the same idea of knowing anatomy well is what translated into all the types of digital double work, but especially for working on someone like The Rock and working on Tom Holland, where the suit are skin tight, and so they have to match every single little muscle movement, every single joint change. So that's where my background and specialty kind of all kind of came full circle.
Now, take us through the process of visual effects. What does the fridge look like when you get it, and then what do you do to it to make it screen worthy?
Oh man, well, we often get, well, for instance, with Spider-Man, we get a back plate, and in my case, with that show in particular, someone had already modeled the character. Usually I'm the artist who will do the modeling from scratch, but with Tom Holland in particular, they were editing and revising the suit a lot right up until the very end, which caused a lot of stress for all of us on the back end of it, because that meant once the suit was redesigned, we'd have to redo the animations and again. And the rig was designed for one suit, but then we were like 6 or 7 different suits later, or 13 different suits later. So the iterations had changed so much where that's where they really needed someone with an anatomy specialization to come in there. But generally the process is you film something or you scan the person, which we both did in this case. Then you have to refine that 3D model so it matches them exactly. And then there's the motion. So the steps are generally you model the character or person or object. You add texture, which is not just the look of the materials or the skin texture, but also colors and materials, so that the final 3D model looks like a real physical object when it's rendered. And then you hand it off to someone who's a rigger, so they create the internal skeleton, and then they hand it off to, or might be the same person who then animates it. An animator then gives it motion, and if they have footage already done, like with Spider-Man, then they have to match that motion 1-to-1 with all the punches and throws and movement that Tom was doing, and that's a lot of work as well, of course. And then once that's done, the rendering, the animation's done, they do a render, and then the render gets composited, and that's the final step where then everything's kind of layered together, and color grading kind of comes along with that right afterwards. And yeah, then it's handed off to, I guess, whoever else needs to add sound and what other final elements need to go in there. But that's kind of the general process. So my work is often taking either a concept artist's work, or if I'm lucky enough to have it done, they'll give me something to create from in general, and then I'll just come up with ideas, and then we finalize the design, and then I hand it off to somebody to make it move usually. But in Spider-Man's case, I was doing a lot of the animation for the muscles and movements, so keeping everything in sync with Tom Holland's movements.
So then visual effects is a team effort. It's
Yes.
not just you. So what aspect do you do in that process?
Primarily 3D modeling and texturing was my forte, I guess. But also with Tom Holland, there's something called blend shapes, which is the specific, if we're getting to the granularity of things, that's the specific type of animation that I was doing, where blend shapes, as they sound, you create 2 different shapes, let's say, and then you blend between them. So if a muscle is in this position and then the muscle in this position, you have to make sure that as it follows through that motion, that the muscle deforms properly throughout that motion, so everything has a smooth flow to it. And that's where then you can have all these, just very simply put, I guess, when you see these 2 different types of motions, let's say, that blend together, you literally can have a graph where you have these different lines flowing in, and so then you have to, it's beautiful in a way, it's math, but it's like you have to have a beautiful flow between 2 different movements so that they blend together seamlessly and they look as they do in reality. And that's where, again, a certain level of science and a certain level of artistry kind of find their middle ground together, and that's where I'm lucky to have a strength in both footing in both areas a bit. So yeah.
And then after all that work, you got nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, it was a huge honor. Our whole team got nominated for Best Visual Effects that year. And we only lost because of a man I greatly admire and his team, Denis Villeneuve, who I actually got to thank in person not too long ago. Yeah, his work on Dune and his whole team on that did an incredible job. So I understand why we lost, but if he wasn't there, I think we might have grabbed that Oscar. But still, as the cliche goes, it was an honor to be nominated, and because I know with this type of work in particular, how much effort and work goes into this type of work that I do. And the team altogether, we busted our asses. We worked hard, and we rushed to get it done. I think we crammed I mean, like with only a week and a half or so left, I think, before the movie premiered.
Wow.
Premiered December 12th, and we were working right after Thanksgiving. It was pretty close, but again, I think it really, the work shows, you know, it paid off, and all our work is on screen, and yeah. So it was a real honor to be a part of that show, and an honor to be nominated for sure.
So what films and visual effects artists have inspired you in your work?
Well, for sure, Jurassic Park was the film that so many other people, for me, it was the one that, as a child, I'm 42, so I was 10 when that movie came out. So I was and already obsessed with dinosaurs as a child. So I was the target demographic for that film. But it also, once I heard it was coming out, my older sister and I, we picked up the novel and we read Michael Crichton's book, and that was my introduction to Crichton, who I then fell in love with, and didn't realize that later my life would parallel in a lot of ways. He was a doctor who never practiced medicine. I studied medicine and practiced a little bit, of course, with the team clinically, and then never continued after 2 years of an ER experience, which was incredible. But Jurassic, so I met Steve Spaz-Williams, who was the key animator and artist on Jurassic, who created the original T-Rex skeleton that convinced Kathleen Kennedy and Spielberg to say we're going CG instead of with Phil Tippett, who I also got to meet and have become well acquainted with. He's a wonderful, truly, kind of like I don't know if father ever had or something. He was just incredible. He's kind of a crotchety, rightfully so. I mean, the guy's been around for a while. He's a legend. For those who don't know, Phil Tippett's a legendary stop animation artist who then moved into the CG world after Jurassic. But he was known for the AT walkers in Star Wars, and Tauntaun, the creature that Luke is riding in Empire Strikes Back, and he worked on Dragon Slayer, and Starship Troopers was his CG foray after Jurassic. And anyway, so I've got to meet them. Glenn McIntosh is a former senior ILM animation supervisor, became a good friend, and through him, I got to do work with Colin Trevorrow and worked for J.A. Bayona and Frank Marshall, and created a bunch of private commission maquettes to commemorate the $1 billion mark on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, where I got to recreate the entire scale by scale, wrinkle by wrinkle, the entire head and neck, a bust of the Endoraptor from Jurassic World. And so then it was a private gift for a bunch of people during the crew. And so it was kind of cool to be, again, full circle, kind of working on things that I had admired and loved as a kid, and looking through the making of art book of Jurassic Park as a child, and seeing all the incredible work by Stan Winston and his crew. And there's John Rosengrantz and Shay Mahan. I got to meet them a couple times. And so living in LA as an artist who was deeply inspired by films like Jurassic and The Matrix and Interstellar, and then getting to meet a lot of the people who made these films a reality, has been incredibly inspiring, humbling, exciting. I'm just very grateful that I've been able to get to shake the hands of a lot of my heroes, and that they've all been truly kind and generous and good, humble people, actually. They say never meet your heroes, but I deny that. I think you should meet your heroes. Hopefully they're kind, but luckily I've been blessed in that area. Yeah.
Now, in recent years, the film industry has changed rapidly. I'm sure your field of visual effects has. How has COVID changed how you operate, and where do you see the future of visual effects going?
Yeah, so ironically, COVID, during that time, right afterward actually, we had a lot of work, and those were mostly on the films that I just mentioned, on Black Adam and Spider-Man and Fantastic Beasts, and a bunch of ads I did. So it really revised it in that we were all working remotely. So all those films I worked on from my home office, which is wild, because when I was younger, I always thought, and until only recently did we have the technology to really allow everyone to work remotely if they had to. And often what our work was like is we would securely sign in to a service that would allow us to remote control a computer states away from my home here in LA. So we would be securely connected to a machine thousands of miles away and do all the work at home, which was a great luxury in a lot of ways, honestly. Getting to be home with my dog and see friends and have lunch with people that I want to right there. It was awesome. But after COVID, there has been a gradual decline in a lot of the work that's been available for a lot of people in the industry, unfortunately. And that extends through, of course, through the whole chain of everyone in Hollywood. So visual effects has taken a blow. There's more incentives that are out of state and out of country, unfortunately, and it's a bit disappointing because this is where the industry was born, and this is where so much of the work that I loved was created, and now it's sadly being forced out because of incentives outside of this great state. So yeah, COVID, and then the strikes, and then AI being lumped in with that has really extended some of the pain that I think a lot of us are going through in the industry right now. So it's sad, it's disappointing. I would love to see more work come back to the state, but also that it would make sense financially, that there would be a more affordable way to make great films here in LA.
Well, are there any projects that you're working on now that like people to keep an eye out for?
I'm working on some pitch material. I have at least 2 different shorts that I'm going to be putting as pitches for Secret Level. So I'm looking to see if I can sit down with Tim Miller and the crew over at Blur. There's this great show called Secret Level on Amazon Prime. Before that, they were known for their work on Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix, 2 seasons over there. I thoroughly enjoyed this first season. Well, both of those shows, but the first season of Secret Level has been great, and so there's a few game IPs I would love to do a little pitch to see if I could do an episode or 2 of those for that series. So we'll see. That's just a total, cold call, I guess you could say, a little bit of a shot in the dark. Although a former boss of mine actually introduced me to Tim Miller way before, well, a year before I moved out here, and we chatted a little bit, and then I saw him again at the Game Awards. So we'll see. Those are some upcoming projects, and then personal film work that I'd love to write and direct is something that's I've been working on scripts for a little bit now, and I want to try to bring back. I want to create the Great Adventures, a new version of those, I guess you could say, spiritual successors to the films that inspired me so much, like Jurassic Park, The Matrix, Interstellar, Back to the Future. I love grand adventures, and so I'm trying to see if I can. I shouldn't say trying. I should say I will make films like that again, that I loved as a child, but films that have intelligence and a heart and spectacle, kind of all interwoven together, because adventure can encompass all that, love and romance and adventure and horror, and you can have all those different spices in an adventure. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping to work on.
Now, what advice do you have for viewers who want to get involved in visual effects?
Well, I guess I would tell them the same thing I tell a lot of the students I talk with when I stream now and then for ZBrush. A lot of people ask, like, how can I get in the industry? And while it is probably one of the hardest times to find work in the industry, as we're all, scraping by at the moment, I think the same 3 principles I give them still apply, which number 1 is, of course, be excellent in what you do, no matter what you do, in any craft, but especially in the arts and especially in Hollywood. You're looking to get a job where you're working with the best in the world. So that means your work, whether you are employed by someone or you're completely unemployed and just someone who's inspired, your work needs to look like the best in the world. That's first number 1. So be excellent at whatever your craft is. Work hard, and it's quality over quantity, right? Of course, if you can do quality and quantity, that's great. But make exceptional work. Number 1. Number 2, be great with people. Be good with people. Learn how to be confident, kind, charismatic, but genuine. People can smell BS a mile away. So be authentic. Learn to be comfortable in your skin. Smile when you shake a hand. Give a firm handshake. And just learn how to get along with everybody. And then lastly, I say be lucky, but I don't really believe in luck. It's more about preparation, right? That phrase is luck favors the prepared, or what is luck but opportunity and preparation when they meet. So position yourself to be successful. So if you're great at something, go to a trade show or a convention or a dinner, wherever, somewhere where there are people who would either like to work with someone like you or who might know someone who would like to work with someone like you. So be great at what you do, be great with people, and then position yourself to meet those people who might want to work with you. And I think that you've optimized your chances for success, and that's like all we can ever do.
Now, how can our viewers find out more about you and your work?
Well, you can check out my website. It's lion-arts.com, or you can follow me on Instagram, Daniel Lion Arts, all one word. Those are probably the easiest ways to follow me.
Daniel, thank you so much for coming to my TV. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
And thank you, viewers, for watching. Stay tuned. We have more interviews coming up. Bye.